South Africans will still have the opportunity to register to vote online or physically by going to an IEC office in their respective province beyond this weekend. The voters' roll will only be closed after the proclamation of the elections.
The voter registration at a voting station affords or extends convenience to voters. So it is a targeted period at which we extend convenience. However, registration is a continuous exercise. A person can register at any point, whether at a local office or online. The only consideration being that a person must have been registered before the elections are proclaimed in order to take part as a voter in those elections. So voter registrations remains open until the date on which the president declares the date of an election.
The IEC says the first day of the two-day registration weekend got off to a seamless start, with hundreds of thousands of people visiting the voting stations. Over 99% of the stations were operational within minutes of opening, with little to no reports of protests.
In the initial hours of this two-day registration weekend, an impressive 304,221 voters have visited voting stations. Of that figure, 55,019 were persons who were registering for the first time. In other words, persons who enter the voters' roll for the very first time. The online voter registration portal recorded over 20,525 transactions. Of those, 7,234 were new registrations, i.e. persons entering the voters' roll for the first time. We urge voters who may have had a less than pleasant experience using the online platform to try again. The platform remains available 24 hours a day until the day on which the date of the election is proclaimed by the president.
In 2019, 15,000 inmates registered to vote. An additional 3,000 have been added to that number following inmate registration that took place earlier this week in the country's correctional facilities.
Well, that 15,000 is still registered. So let's not say we're not starting afresh. And everyone else.
So you're basically adding another 3,000.
Exactly. We're adding to the roll, but they don't have a separate voters roll because of the fact that they can still be registered wherever they are and they can then vote inside of prison. They do not assume the prison address. They still have their own address because the legislation allows them or deems them to be registered in the voting district where they are incarcerated.
The Commission has continued to encourage South Africans to seize the opportunity and actively participate in this weekend's registration drive. Natasha Phiri, SABC News, Centurion.